now on our panel discussion on the rise of mobile gaming. Why has mobile gaming become so popular? Well, we're looking at talking about changing the mindset and narrative, going beyond basic audience mechanics, difference in commercial models versus traditional gaming, and also an exceptional opportunity for advertisers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for this panel discussion, we've got Tarun Gupta, founder, Ultimate Battle, Carlos Alimurang, CEO, Once Esports. We've got Ravi, Kiran, who's the CEO, Go Live Game Studio, and we've got Kirsty, Endfield, the founder, Swipe Right. Well, with this, I'd like to humbly welcome all our panelists. Thank you for joining us. With this, the stage and screen is all yours.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kirsty, and I'm the founder and director of Swipe Right PR. We are the leading communications agency for esports and video games, and we look after some of the biggest brands in the industry, including Red Bull, PUBG Mobile, and ByteDance. Joining me today is Ravi, the founder and CEO of Go Live Games, Tarun, the founder of Ultimate Battle, and Carlos, the CEO of One Esports. Thank you for joining us today. We will be discussing the rise of mobile gaming, a section of the games industry that some say will rival that of console and PC. To kick things off, I'd like to welcome our speakers and to find out a little bit more about each of them. So, Ravi, perhaps you'd like to start and provide us a bit of detail on your background and experience, please.
Hi everyone, pleasure to be here. So this is Ravi. I head Go Live group of companies. We are primarily a developer and a publisher. Our main forte is the Indian market. I mean, we are the go-to guys for any top publisher when they're entering India. So very happy to talk about a topic that is very close to my heart because it's the rise of mobile gaming. That's like the second wave of gaming in India. The first wave was almost there between 2007 to 2012. But this time it's become very real. I'll share some insights soon. But fundamentally, this is the best time to operate as a mobile games publisher in India.
Excellent. And Tarun, over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Tarun Gupta. I'm from Ultimate Battle. And Ultimate Battle is a esports platform which is focused primarily on competitive gaming. Mobile gaming being one of the primary gaming titles that we host, coupled with PC and console gaming as well. The objective we belong to the Indian market, and the purpose of the platform is to see how we can bring about a change in the esports industry in India, and we've been on it for the last couple of years, and we'd like to see how this industry shapes up as we move forward.
Thank you. And finally, Carlos.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Carlos. I'm the CEO of One Esports. We are the biggest, most influential esports media company in Southeast Asia. Our mission is to share and celebrate the stories of esports heroes who ignite the world with strength, hope, dreams, and inspiration. And the reason why we have that mission is because we truly, honestly believe that if esports, whether it's PC, mobile, or console, is going to be as big as the reports say they are, we need to be telling stories that are compelling and motivating people that are outside of hardcore gamers to follow esports. And so we really try to serve as a megaphone and as a platform for esports heroes, both athletes and the streamers and the casters and everyone who's involved in esports, to really elevate their celebrity and fandom throughout the world.
That's fantastic, thank you. And you've already touched on a really important factor when it comes to sort of mobile gaming in terms of the accessibility of it. I suppose the diversity of the type of games that are on offer. But to start, I'd like to just put the mobile gaming industry into perspective. And I'm going to throw out a few stats here. So the market was expected to grow to $120 billion this year. And a report from Global Data released earlier this year estimated the mobile gaming market will be worth $272 billion by 2030, which is, it's just crazy. So how does mobile gaming currently compare to the PC and console market? And Ravi, I will come to you first.
So let me start off with some India stats, because those global stats are so phenomenal. Those are awesome, right? I mean, that's the market we're all operating in. So in India, this is a boom period, especially for mobile gaming. There are close to 360 million plus mobile gamers in India alone. And almost 30 to 35 million new phones are being bought every year and every month, sorry. And every month, if there are 30 million new gamers getting added, this is going to become like 1.5 to 2x year on year for the next couple of years. So it's like the boom period. And what's happening is these players who are buying new phones are installing the same old most popular games out there, which are typically the esport games like the PUBGs and Free Fire and so on. So the esport base is growing like leaps and bounds year on year. The last numbers that we saw was between 30 to 50 million. This year it might be about 60 to 75 million. So that's a huge esports base in India alone that's yet to be tapped properly. There are a few games. The battle royale genre is doing really well in India, and we think this trend will continue into the other genres going forward as well. So anything that's esport ready has become a key for monetization in India. That's one of the reasons why the esport games are the ones getting a lot of traction. They're getting a lot of user acquisition. They're getting a lot of support from the stores, and of course the esport organizers and everyone are just rallying behind these top few games. The same trend, we think India will be one of the top markets in the next couple of years globally, right, on the mobile. The same trends will continue in the global space as well. For example, one of the trends that we've seen is the skill gaming thing, right? So MPL, I think Tarun can talk a little more soon. But fundamentally, a lot of our companies are now becoming global brands out of India. So India first was like a very rare thing in the earlier days. Now India first is a great strategy. So India is like the test bed with millions of gamers, have a thriving community, and then go conquer the globe. So we think mobile is going to be a big factor for the Indian ecosystem, and mobile will also be a predominant industry, way much bigger than the PC and console over the next few years.
Excellent. That's already a very bold statement. I like it. And Tarun, I am going to come to you next because Ravi raised a really good point. I was thinking more about, the mobile games market, but actually some of that growth comes down to the esports side, which is phenomenally growing as well. So I suppose when we talk about mobile esports, like what has that growth looked like for you as well?
This question is directed to
Tarun, sorry, for you, sorry.
Sorry. So I think your earlier question was more about, how mobile gaming, fares out when you compare it to PC and console. Mm-hmm. So the way we understand this is mobile is about 85% of the total gaming industry in India, and followed by PC, and thereafter by console. Okay, so the major chunk of the current esports or the gaming industry is governed by mobile. While the two core genres, which or the categories of mobile gaming, would be casual and esports. Okay, so when you say casual gaming, while the numbers are really high on casual gaming, esports gaming is, the engagement levels are really high. So I think these are two completely different genres. Esports is more about competitive gaming, and casual is like, purely from an entertainment standpoint. Indian gaming industry currently sits at about $1.2 billion and is expected to grow to about $3 billion by about 2022. This is something which we saw from the CLSA report, which was published in 2020. So, that's how we look at it.
Excellent, thank you. And Carlos, I'm going to come to you next, just because One Esports is Asia's largest esports media outlet. And we've been talking a lot about the Indian mobile gaming and esports market, but I'd love to get a feel for sort of the broader Asian market landscape, and also just to find out whether you feel that this growth, these huge figures are actually mostly coming out of Asia, and sort of the West is yet to kind of keep up.
Yeah, I think those are a good set of questions. So first is, in my intro, when I described One Esports as a kind of a full content stack, esports media company, We do a lot of different things. We have an events business. We own and operate oneesports.gg, which is one of the biggest esports news sites in the world. We have our own studio that does long form, short form streaming content. And we also have our own in-house data and analytics team that does proprietary research on esports fans in Southeast Asia, and also globally. As a matter of fact, about I want to say about 4 or 5 weeks ago, we released an esports report solely focused on female esports fans in Southeast Asia, which potentially is another topic we'll get into. But I mention that because in our research, we have discovered that 87% of gamers in Southeast Asia prefer to play games on the mobile phone. Now, when you compare that to North America, it's 60%, and in Europe, it's 59%, okay? And so I think, to kind of lead into, I think, your last question around, how does this compare versus the East or the West? The reality of it is the reason, a big reason why mobile gaming, and in particular mobile esports, has really taken off in Southeast Asia and in India and in Brazil and in North Africa and Middle East is simply because, the GDP per capita makes high performance PCs and consoles cost prohibitive for the average family, right? But no matter where you are in the world, whether you are in a high GDP capita country or in a low GDP capita country, when you're waiting for the bus, what do? You take out your smartphone. When you're waiting for your meal, what do? You take out your smartphone. When you want to take a break from studying, what do? You take your smartphone out, right? And so in these types of emerging economies, having a phone, everyone has a phone. And that has made mobile gaming really accessible to everyone. And it's really been the driver of why mobile esports has really taken off. So the question around, is the West trailing the East? I mean, that may be one way to look at it. I mean, another way to look at it is just that there are different economics in those countries and regions, which just makes the proclivity of mobile either more favorable or less favorable. Now, my own hypothesis, if you were to ask me to predict the future, would be that, look, in North America and Europe, PC gaming and console gaming is not going to go away. They are always going to exist. However, mobile gaming will certainly take a bigger chunk of the pie in developed markets, for sure. And a lot of that has to do with also something that I mentioned before, which is the rise of the female gaming fan. Here in Southeast Asia, females literally account close to 50% of the fan base. And in North America and Europe, you're just seeing a lot more women and females engaging in gaming. I mean, you can see it on Twitch, you can see it on YouTube, you can see it on the influencers. And so, in short, I think, again, PC and console gaming and esports won't disappear in North America and Europe, but certainly mobile will take a bigger pie than I think people expect it to.
You've raised two fantastic points around diversity and accessibility. And I'm wondering as well, just as a follow-up question, and this, is open to all three of you, is that sort of increase in diversity, is that because of the platform itself and not just because of the accessibility of it, but the community that you have around mobile, the perception that you have around a mobile device? It's almost a lot more sort of casual friendly. So even though you have female gamers and participants playing in competitive titles, is it sort of the notion that makes it almost more accessible than perhaps like the PC or console market? And I'm going to come to you first, Tarun, please.
Yeah. So I think what Carlos just mentioned, that mobile industry is taking the the largest chunk of the entire market. But there's the way we look at it is that the kind of gaming that one can do on a mobile phone is very limited in terms of the experience that it gives to a gamer, or the kind of skill set a gamer can exhibit on a mobile phone. Okay, but when you take these, when you take the gaming to a PC and a mobile or a console, the the skill set, the skill sets kind of take a totally different leap, and it gets more. I don't know how to put it, but it's more intense. Okay, so and there's a report by KPMG which says that when a gamer gets really serious even on a mobile phone, it tends to move towards a PC or a console, to explore the larger side of gaming. Okay, so the way we look at it is that mobile gaming, it is huge because of the casual gaming side of things. Okay, it's not huge because of the esports is there. There's no doubt, because of the casual side of mobile gaming, because it's so accessible and so casually can be played, and not necessarily high skill based games or esport driven games, but a simple game like Tetris or even a Ludo is played on a mobile phone. But the real esports angle comes in when you really talk about esports. Mobile gaming may have a larger chunk, but PC and console is here to stay because the kind of experience it kind of gives away to a gamer. Now, that's how I would like to look at it.
Excellent, thank you. And Ravi, coming to you next, I suppose to both points really. In many ways, a lot of people that play mobile games don't necessarily consider themselves to be a gamer. Like you have people that are playing Candy Crush or whatever casual game it is, and they are playing a game that would make them a gamer, but they would never say that about themselves. Do you think that by sort of not identifying themselves as gamers, has that almost contributed to the mobile gaming popularity?
I'll give you a tangential point of view, which probably answers it, but from a different perspective, right? So there are three things which we have seen. I used to be a pro gamer, Age of Empires 2003 to 5 and so on. Since then, right, so last 15 years. So the first one was the rise of actual traditional esports, like the PC, console, hardcore gamers playing 8 hours, 10 hours, but they're all like very playing in silos. Parents would not even approve of that gaming style. They would think my kid is antisocial and whatnot, right? That was the first wave, but it was pretty big. Even in India, it was big enough that people like me started our own companies and so on, right? But then something changed across the globe. Of course, this was a model copied from East Asia, but fundamentally the freemium gaming model, right? If you see the emerging markets like India, Southeast Asia that are growing, if not for freemium gaming, people wouldn't have given it a try because most of them are first-time gamers. So everyone was expecting that either TV or mobile will go boom, huge. And yeah, I think mobile outdid TV because of the experiences that were created on the mobile, like Angry Birds and so on. So that's where your third thing, which is the social experience, right? All said and done, if you see the biggest game in India, it's not a PUBG or let's say a Free Fire. It's actually a game called Ludo King, which is a social game that friends play amongst each other, or games like Among Us and so on, right? So that is where the first time gamers come, they get hooked on. And yeah, it's like watching movies, right? You start watching movies, then you crave for better experiences, right? You don't want to watch the same movie or again and again, especially if it's not that great. So likewise, in mobile gamers, 1 to 2% convert into hardcore gamers because they now have the time, they have the means, and they want to spend on more premium experiences. That's where they turn esport fans, at least as fans, consuming content on video. Then they start playing, then they start becoming esports players. So from PC console, that was a different kind of audience. They were always in for the hardcore experience. But mobile, it's a gradual learning curve, which is a much more stable curve. So over the next couple of years, most probably another 200, 300 million esport fans across the globe will be formed, but they're not formed like first time. So it's not like they bought a console and became an esport fan. They probably played a casual game, made friends, then they started competing within friends, tried to become better players, started following esport players, pros, became even better. Some of them turned pro, and that whole process, I think that is where the rise of mobile gaming and esports is going to become very stable, rock solid industry for the next few maybe decades.
And You mentioned a really important point around the sort of the freemium model within app purchases versus that premium gaming offering. And the app economy has developed so much so quickly. We're now seeing a lot more of a deeper offering through live ops, through sort of like content incentives as well. So how has that offering evolved? And I'm going to come back to you, Ravi, if that's okay, just because of the work that you've done with Go Live and the types of titles as well.
Do you want me to answer right now?
Yes,
because
please.
That is something that I'm super excited. If not for this year's Apple versus Epic Games lawsuit, I would have given a much different answer. But that's going to change now. So very smartly, the Play Store and the App Store pushed developers into a corner by saying, hey, our stores are your only distribution means. So keep making great experiences that if we like, we will promote, we will make you big. It was a very one-sided game. Okay, and developers like me were both on the receiving end in the positive as well as the negative side, right? But I think from now on, next decade will be very exciting that developers start becoming bigger and they will dictate terms with the gamers. So this is where the freemium and live ops are so important, because you need a community of gamers. You need an active community of loyal gamers to keep the game running. Earlier, it was very much dependent on the stores. Now, developers will start taking it into their control. And if they regularly release content through live ops, as in every week, every fortnight, there is new content that's coming up, then that community will stay loyal. Even 100,000 or 500,000 loyal community is much better than having 100 million users who are not loyal. So monetization for the developers happens only if there is a loyal community, which happens only if there is live ops. So earlier it was the stores dictating this. Now it's the community which will dictate what comes into the game and so on. I think for the developers, this is very exciting time. New modes like blockchain gaming, new modes like direct to gamers, right? I mean, you don't even need to launch on stores anymore. There are different payment mechanisms available. So it's very, very exciting times.
And the mobile gaming ecosystem has changed so much over the last couple of years, and the growth, a lot of the growth is it's happened in the last couple of years as well. And some have said 2020 was the golden age of the mobile gaming industry, which witnessed more people participating and playing games on their phones than previous years. So obviously that 2020 was a very difficult year for a lot of people. But how did the pandemic affect the growth of mobile gaming? And Carlos, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I think this is a question that is often asked, which is, is 2020 in some respects like peak consumption of gaming, whether it's even mobile or console or PC, just given the circumstances of COVID-19. And my hypothesis is that 2020 was just a huge step change in the growth, but even without COVID-19 pandemic, gaming and mobile gaming and esports were already on a crazy trajectory. And so I think what COVID-19 did was just accelerate more people into the space. And I think certain behaviors, look, if COVID-19 only lasted like 6 months in 2020, then it would have been temporal. But it lasted all of 2020. It's kind of still here in 2021. And, unfortunately, it looks like this thing is going to be around a little bit longer. And so that is a long time for consumer behavior to change and get embedded. I mean, if you think about spaces outside of gaming, food delivery, OTT consumption, at-home health and fitness, telemedicine. I mean, there are a wide range of other verticals that have accelerated their growth and in some respects like solidified their place in our life, because this COVID thing, unfortunately, has been stuck around a lot longer than we think. So I would not call 2020 a golden age. I mean, that almost connotes that like it peaked. For me, like this thing is just gonna keep going, because at the end of the day, it was already. In the world of esports, I always like to remind people that outside of death and taxes, the other certainty in life is demographics. And when you look at traditional stick and ball sports, the vast majority of stick and ball traditional sports, the average age is only getting older. And like baseball in America, for instance, I think the average age is something like 50. The average age of basketball fan is like late 30s. Golf, forget about it. Those guys are literally dying. Cricket, they're literally, I mean, maybe outside of India is an old man's game. But when you look at esports, where the average age is in their 20s, I mean, that already signifies the long runway that our industry has to go. And there's a lot of growth and a lot of headroom for growth still in this business.
And Tarun,
I'd like to add a point there.
Of course.
So something that has stuck with me since I heard a very famous movie director talk about it in India. So essentially, when you look at the earlier medium before games, right, it was all one-dimensional. So it was a director showing his vision in a movie, or a director showing his vision in a TV show or something of that sort, or sometimes the books, the authors used to write some cool books and get people to think about it, imagine about it, right? So that's the usual one-dimensional flow. So it's one person showing his vision to the consumer. But when it comes to games, your mind starts operating in a two-dimensional way, because the gamer is also interacting. There are inputs that they are feeding in. So it's a very different level of experience on a very different scale. So once people start gaming, there's no way that the rest of the other experiences will even match up to it. So COVID in that sense has accelerated the adoption of what gaming could have been by at least a few years. And I believe that once people have tasted gaming experiences, they're not just going to go back to reading books and reading papers or watching regular TV shows. So it's going to just keep growing and grow from here on.
And Tarun, I'll take this question over to you next. Ultimate Battle is India's first online esports platform. You've obviously built up a very loyal community and fan base. And so for the last year, how has the demand what kind of demand have you seen for competitive mobile games?
So if this question is towards the pandemic period, as in how this time, how the market behaved in these time frames. So we, if I had to put it in analytics, we saw almost about 80% of growth in user engagement, okay, and retention. Because I think what pandemic did was everyone was, literally sitting at their home and with very little to do. Either it was OTT, like Carlos put, or people try to explore other sources of entertainment. And gaming was, mobile phone, something that you carried throughout your day, and people started to explore. So with pandemic, people explored gaming as an entertainment, and which I think it slowly got to a competitive stage. People started to think of it as a competitive environment, in a competitive environment also. So pandemic, I think it accelerated, like Carlos is putting it. It just accelerated the whole, the reaction. It became a chain reaction. That's how I would look at it.
The other things I would just say, which is, look, I think we all look at Netflix, and you can only look at Netflix and say, that is a very well-run company, and they tend to do a lot of smart things. And what did they do in 2021? They got into gaming. I mean, that's a really big sign already. And the other thing, as it relates to mobile games, you have a lot of the big AAA game developers also announcing that they're going big into mobile. I mean, Riot Games, which is, the creator of League of Legends and Valorant, they have their own mobile game, Wild Rift. So they're in mobile. They've talked about taking Valorant, which is an FPS PC game, and making it mobile. Activision Blizzard has Call of Duty Warzone, right? So, you have these big, huge traditional, AAA game developers who've lived in the world of PC and in console, and they're moving into gaming, into mobile gaming. And then, as I said, with Netflix getting into gaming, that already shows you how kind of mainstream this has become.
True.
And
I don't know if I can ask a question.
yeah, please do.
Yeah. So like Carlos, you just put through that games like Call of Duty, these brands like Call of Duty, Fortnite, Valorant, they were all primarily PC games or console games, right? All of them came out with their mobile versions, while at the same time we know the limitations with when you play on a mobile and when you play on a PC or a console. So it's really different, the kind of things you can do and exhibit your skill sets. So what is it that you think is driving these guys into
Yeah. So look, I think a light bulb has been lit at these really big game developers. And that light bulb is the realization that they're not just game developers. They are IP holders, and that they are storytellers, and that they are in the broad entertainment business. Okay. So like they started in PC or in console, and they realize, okay, we have an IP that can extend itself into mobile. And if I'm in mobile and if I'm PC and I'm on console, that gives me a lot of other opportunities. That gives me the opportunity to be in anime. It gives me the opportunity to make movies. It gives me the opportunity to push merchandise, blah, 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 right? I think all of these guys have realized that they potentially are the next Disney. And if you're going to be the next Disney, you're going to play in every single vertical where you can extend your IP. And you're going to hit, and by the way, I think these companies realize that they are hitting different gaming communities. And I think that's one of their objectives.
Okay, so in continuation to that, there becomes a very thin line between entertainment and esports.
Yeah.
So when you talk about, how would you look at that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I use this analogy a lot, and I say, when you think about like a traditional, let's talk about traditional stick and ball sports, and you think about the NBA, and when you think about, okay, what really made the NBA the sport property that it is today? And obviously that answer is Michael Jordan, right? But the question is who created Michael Jordan outside of the fact that Michael Jordan is this totally unique individual in the world? It was the media machine that created Michael Jordan, that brought him into that pedestal. And by the way, that path has been followed for Federer, Serena Williams, Hamilton, all the other athletes have basically taken that same trajectory. And so and this was kind of my, a little bit of what I meant in the beginning, which is, yes, like esports is competitive video gaming, which really, I think, excites a hardcore demo. But if esports, whether it's PC, console, or mobile, is going to be as big as the reports say, then you got to think of it broadly, and you got to think about it as entertainment. This is another analogy that I always love to say. My mother knows nothing about basketball. If you asked my mom, hey, Mom, name me 3 rules in basketball, she would not know what to say. But if you asked my mom, hey, name for me a famous basketball player, she's going to tell you Michael Jordan. And that's what I mean, which is like, if esports truly is going to be as big as it's promising to be, you got to get my mom involved. You got to get my mom to know Faker or Uzi or Venom or any of these other guys. And right now, the reality of it is, you know, those global esports athletes don't have the fandom that, you know, Federer or Hamilton or Serena Williams has. That's very much like what the people at One Esports spend a lot of time on, which is, if you go to see our website or our content, it's always about storytelling of the journey of the esports athlete, because we think it's the stories that matter at the end of the day.
And I'm going to just take it back to, I suppose, mobile gaming specifically. And to your point, Carlos, around how you're seeing publishers and developers such as Riot creating actual IPs dedicated to mobile, not a port to mobile, but actually dedicated titles for mobile. It's incredibly important. Most publishers tend to port a game over, which, you know, it's fine. It carries the same kind of IP, but not necessarily the gameplay mechanics that people want to see. So in terms of the next stage of the mobile gaming industry's development, do you feel, and I'll take this question to Ravi, do you feel that having publishers actually, AAA publishers actually create dedicated mobile games, will that sort of help to elevate the industry? And the reason for that question is because, coming from a PR background, I know mobile games are very difficult to PR. So when you have a strong IP that is dedicated to mobile, hopefully people would take stock, right?
So again, I think this also is the answer to Tarun's question in a way as well, because why are publishers coming into mobile is also is the same reason actually. So at one time it was CDs, DVDs, and direct to consumer, right? The publisher had to build a brand. So if the game was not popular, the game would not sell. Then came stores which said, I will take care of your branding. Don't worry, I'll get you users. So publishers started focusing on just the experience. And the experience didn't need to be massive. So it didn't need to have a $100 million budget, because of which it didn't need a $50 million branding budget either. But then the stores couldn't deliver, because at least in, let's say, a country like India, if you have 360 million users and I come with a AAA shooting game, how will Google give me those exact 2 million loyal fans who will like my game? It doesn't even probably know who those exact 2 million are, whether they are the same guys who like PUBG or they'll like Valorant or whatever, right? So there was something broken at that point. And what has happened with the rise of esports is, esports at the core is about stars, building communities. Like Carlos was saying, without Jordan, there might not be the same rise of basketball. Without a Tendulkar, there might not be the same rise of cricket. So who are those stars? Who are those fans following those stars? What are those loyal communities? Until you have these communities, the games will not succeed. And building a community for a PC or a console game is not so easy. So in a way, mobile gaming will become the user acquisition funnel. It will have those hundreds of millions of users, out of which the 10-20 might become hardcore enough to go play console and PC. But mobile will be that big pyramid kind of a thing, right? And at the top of the pyramid will still be esports, the stars and so on, who will drive the whole ecosystem. And I think that's how mobile gaming and esports are very interconnected, and they will be the forerunners before the PC and console for the next decade or so. I think that's why the publishers have to go the route of mobile gaming. Without an active and loyal community on mobile, they might not even survive as PC or console publisher anymore.
And I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to move on to, it's quite a big and broad question, and this is going to be for each of you. I suppose I'm interested really in just sort of what has actually contributed to this growth. We've talked about accessibility, we've talked about sort of the importance of publishers, and we've obviously discussed some of the great numbers around it. So in terms of that actual growth, what can it be attributed to? Is it new technology that's coming out? Is it 5G? Is it the casual gameplay element? And Tarun, I'd like to come to you, what you believe to be the reasons for mobile gaming growth.
Okay. The reason why Okay, so I think the two most important factors I think are really out there, which is one is the accessibility of mobile phone, and the second one is the casual, gaming side of things. I think they are no-brainers. I think we've talked about that for quite a bit. I think the third thing that I can personally think of is the entertainment side of it. I think which is what takes mobile gaming, it gives that thing to mobile gaming, because it's casual. And the reason why people really reach out to mobile gaming is, just it's pure, which is why the reason why it's so big is because it provides entertainment, because we can't just talk about games like Call of Duty and Free Fire and Fortnite. We need to get into our perspective, the entertainment. You have your Candy Crushes. So I think that it's the entertainment side of things, which also kind of makes it really big. It's just a go-to thing, for anyone to pass their time.
And Carlos, taking sort of the conversation around accessibility that one step further, when we talk about that, I'm not necessarily just talking about the availability of handsets, but the actual connectivity around mobile gaming, the opportunity there as well. Like, how much is 5G playing a factor?
Well, one, I would say we still haven't seen what 5G can do. So when 5G totally gets implemented, then I think we will be totally wowed. But to go to your original question, which is, what's driving at the heart of why mobile gaming and therefore mobile esports has really exploded. We've talked a lot about a lot of different things, accessibility of handsets and AAA titles getting into mobile and all of that. The other thing I would say is that I think one big mega trend in media consumption is that everything needs to be snackable. I had this incredible conversation with a sports media executive who works at one of the biggest sports media properties in the United States, and he said, and I never really thought about this. He goes, we actually trained our audience not to watch the full game on television, because what we ended up doing is we started packaging the highlights of the games, and then people didn't need to watch the 3-hour baseball game because they only needed to watch, the 2 minutes that Derek Jeter was at bat, or when Tom Brady was, driving in the fourth quarter. And that has got us to a world where people now, like, you need to make something kind of really incredible for someone to watch something for like 2 or 3 hours. I mean, it's got to be like totally wow me type of content for someone to sit there for 2 to 3 hours and watch something. And so the new standard is snackable content. And when you combine that with the accessibility of a mobile phone and mobile games, which is like essentially snackable content, which which piggybacks on Tarun's point of view on the entertainment factor, I think that plays a huge role in why mobile gaming has exploded.
And Ravi, I'll take that question over to you. In your opinion, what has contributed to its success?
I think the biggest contributor, just a unique perspective, is going to be AI and automation, because people will just be left with so much free time and they're going to use it to entertain themselves. They're going to spend it on themselves, right? So fundamentally, all the boring jobs, all the routine stuff that people do all day long, this is something we are seeing in rural India right now. A lot of the gamers that are coming up in India are from rural India. They didn't have any other means of entertainment. They used to do all the regular stuff that is getting replaced with machines, and it's become much more easy. They don't need to work 10 hours a day anymore. So they work for 5-6 hours. They have 4 more hours now to do something. They'll come to play games, and they're not going to play games on PC and console. All these new gamers will first play on mobile. So it's just going to grow and grow. And mobile is such a personal device, right? So I'm sure all the other factors are also there, like very low cost phones, affordable internet, and so on. But fundamentally, it's a personal device, so you can have your own set of choices on that mobile device. You play, and I think mobile is going to just go bigger and bigger. probably in a decade, everyone will have at least a couple of phones, one to play games for sure.
So you've touched on my final question, actually, and which was, do you think that mobile gaming will overtake PC and or console? It sounds like, Ravi, that you think it will.
It's already done in few markets like India. It's just that it has to take over in the West or some of the more developed markets. Again, I think that's where the demographics point that Carlos mentioned is so important, right? Because there was a generation of hardcore gamers who had that very premium experience on console and PC, that for them, the mobile gaming is not at the same level, so they're not shifting yet. But their kids, their siblings, the next generation are all mobile first. Some of them will graduate to PC and console, but most of them might just stick to mobile. That's enough for them. It's not like everyone wants to go win a medal for their country, or everyone wants to go play like 10 hours hardcore every day, right? The hardcore gamers will still be there on PC and console, but mobile will be the first gaming choice for most people. So, across the globe.
Tarun, you were nodding. Your view on, I suppose, mobile esports, will that have a place sort of sitting alongside the likes of CSGO, League of Legends?
Yeah, so I think, so if you talk of India and then you talk global, I think India is a mobile first market. You know, that there is no two ways about that. But globally, I think so. Like the West, it still needs to catch up a bit. So mobile is going to catch up, you know, and while PC and console is here to stay for sure, there is no doubt about that. The hardcore gaming is going to be equal at both ends. You could have more casual gamers on mobile, but when we talk about hardcore gaming, so I think so. Like I said earlier, so there is an entertainment side to it, a casual gaming side to it. But when you really talk hardcore gaming, I think it's available at both ends equally. Maybe a little more on the mobile.
And Carlos, final thoughts from you. What is your perception on the future of mobile gaming?
Yeah, I mean, the short of it is I look at mobile gaming with rose-tinted glasses. I mean, I really think it is going to continue to take off. I will say, however, like in North America, you know, I'm an American. I think mobile, at least like mobile esports, I think will have a harder time gaining traction in America, because America is very, very wedded to PC and console. So it's going to have a harder time in North America. And I would say some markets in Europe are probably like that as well. But, you know, if you're talking, if you are in the space station, the International Space Station, and you're looking down on Earth, and you're looking at all of the new generation of gamers that are coming from Southeast Asia, from India, from Brazil, from North Africa, from the Middle East, as Ravi said, they're all going to be introduced to gaming via their phone. So I think at a very high level, I think it's, you know, I'm confident in saying mobile and mobile esports is going to take over. But then when you start like putting a microscope on specific markets, there you can see, you know, PC and console really still having a, you know, a hold on the market.
Thank you so much.
Like for example, like India is, I think, as far as PC and console gaming is concerned, it is having a hard time, you know. Most of the leagues which are high value prize money leagues are only mobile games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when you look at it, you know, this is market specific. But I think when you take it to America, I don't think you know, you have CSGO and Dota and FIFA, and I think all of these console and PC games.
They're not going anywhere.
Okay, well, that is all we have time for. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak, and also to listen from at home, at the office, wherever you might be. So thank you very much.
So ladies and gentlemen, what an excellent panel discussion that was on the rise of mobile gaming. Why has mobile gaming become so popular?